Well, that brings us to the grand theory of the universe, which is called point of harmony, or what I call the case of rutabagas and apple pie. Now, if you're in the audience and you like rutabagas, I don't mean this to be offensive. I'm coming from simply a personal preference. I don't like rutabagas. When we talk about apple pie, if you don't like apple pie, once again, I don't mean to be offensive. I'm just using this as a hypothetical situation. So let's say everybody in here does not like rutabagas. We're repulsed by them. We don't want to eat them. Yet rutabagas are a part of life. They have just as much right to be here as any of us. Maybe more so. So what do we do with that? Well, we have to find a place where rutabagas fit into our life. We sit down and we figure this out. How can we be in harmony with rutabagas? First of all, not in our stomach. We don't want rutabagas in our stomach, disharmony. Not on our plate. Don't want rutabagas on the plate, disharmony. Not even on the stove cooking. Don't want rutabagas on the stove cooking. So where can rutabagas go that we can find a sense of harmony with? Perhaps in the produce section of the grocery store. We can walk by them from afar and notice a wonderful creamy purplish hue and say, rutabagas, you are just fine where you're at, and I am in harmony with you. Just don't come near me. Now let's flip it over and say apple pie. Let's say, hypothetically, once again, we all love apple pie. We are in harmony with apple pie. We can have apple pie in our stomachs, we can have it on our plate, we can have it in the oven baking, we can have it on the windowsill cooling. We don't care. Whenever we're in the presence of apple pie, even standing and salivating in front of it in the case at the bakery, we still feel good about it. So we find a place in our lives for absolutely everything that we can be in harmony with. Now, the reason I bring this up this morning is for one reason and one reason only, and everybody in here will agree that some people in our lives are like rutabagas. They're just people that we don't prefer for one reason or another. They might be obnoxious, they might be rude, they might be unkind, they might be disrespectful. But for one reason, we do not prefer the presence of this person. So how do we do that? We find a place in our lives where we can put that person and we're in harmony with them. It might be a long distance away. It might be no communication. If it's somebody that sits right next to us at work and we do not have that luxury of separating ourselves from them, we still have the power to control our attention and we don't dedicate our attention to them. They simply are okay as they are, outside of our mind, outside the focus of our attention. I think I've told you before about my Uncle Harry. We clashed growing up. I was the wrong kind of a child for him to appreciate. And as I grew into adulthood, we continued that resistance, and it didn't feel good when we were in each other's presence. So the point of harmony for Uncle Harry in my life was a long distance away. Send him a birthday card once a year. Give him a call on Christmas and say, Merry Christmas. May I talk to your wife? And, and with I hope Uncle Harry doesn't get a tape of this. But with that, I am in perfect harmony with Uncle Harry. Now let's flip this over, and a lot of people in our lives are like apple pie. They are good for us. When we're around them, we have a sense of love. We have a sense of being appreciated. We have a sense of harmony. We have a sense of truly being alive within this relationship. And so we build on that. We don't direct our attention towards the rutabagas. We just leave them alone at a distance. But what we do is spend our time building those relationships that support us, that are conducive to our well-being, that express love to us, the strongest, highest, lightest energy that there is. And within that, we grow and we prosper and we experience life to the fulfilled. That is called the point of harmony. And every single thing in this world has a place in your life where you can be at harmony with it. It's just a matter of doing your homework and discovering where can I place them? Where can this situations and circumstances? How do I deal with that? What kind of person do I want to be? A harmonious one, and how does everything fit to support me in that? In doing that, we build a world around us that is very, very pleasant and easy to live in, and at the same time increases or builds our mental, emotional, and physical health. It's the point of harmony for everything in our lives. And sometimes that's not easy, but what it calls on us to do is to focus our attention. We all know what we think about expands. If I'm going to think about the pothole out in the street in front of the church, it's going to irritate me more and more and more. I'm going to have that pothole in my head until I'm cursing it. On my way to church to give a lesson on being peaceful and harmonious. That pothole is disrupting me. If I don't think about it and say, okay, the distance between me and that pothole has to be, perhaps I take a different road, or perhaps I change lanes so I don't have interaction with it, it doesn't exist anymore. It's not a problem for me. At the same time, when I come into the church and I run into Carlene, our organist, who's here practicing at 8:30, and I go over and I hug her and I spend time with her, I build that. There's a harmony there. It makes me feel better. So you have time. How are you going to spend it? Time is basically attention. It's your conscious mind, your awareness of what's going on. You focus towards the good, it automatically builds. If you focus on the bad, what you dislike, what you don't prefer, that is going to build. And with a little bit of practice, a little bit of consistency, you'll discover that all those irritants in your life that were like a pebble in your shoe walking down the path of life simply begin to diminish and become smaller and smaller. And that which you love begins to radiate and smother you with a sense of well-being that is immeasurable by common standards. As we move into meditation this morning, think of the good in your life. Think of what you want to focus on. Think of what you need to distance yourself from in order to be in harmony with that thing or that person that disrupts you. We'll now move into meditation.